June 6, 1944, at 1:14 in the morning, more than 13,000 American paratroopers stepped out of aircraft doors into complete darkness over Normandy. Each man fell at roughly 120 miles per hour, burdened by nearly 88 pounds of equipment that pulled at his harness like dead weight. Reserve parachutes, ammunition, grenades, rations, mines, entrenching tools, medical kits, spare clothing, and radios all fought gravity at once. When the parachute snapped open, the shock tore at bodies already strained by exhaustion and fear. German anti-aircraft fire stitched the sky with tracer rounds, ripping through C-47 transport planes and scattering formations that were supposed to land in tight patterns. Men hit Norman fields, orchards, marshes, and hedgerows tens of kilometers from their objectives, often alone, disoriented, and immediately hunted. As boots struck earth, training vanished and instinct took over. The first act of survival was reaching for a weapon. According to United States Army doctrine, that weapon was supposed to be ready quickly. Paratroopers trained to open the Griswold bag clipped to their harness, remove the disassembled components of an M1 Garand rifle, thread the barrel into the receiver, lock the action, insert an 8-round N-block clip, chamber a round, and fight. Engineering drawings claimed this process could be completed in 40 seconds under ideal conditions. Doctrine assumed 40 seconds existed. German soldiers moving through hedgerows needed only 10. In the darkness behind enemy lines, American paratroopers discovered the fatal gap between weapons that functioned on paper and weapons that functioned when hands were shaking, vision was poor, and enemy fire was already incoming. The United States Army had 12 months to fix a problem that was killing soldiers faster than bullets. The story of that solution began more than 2 years earlier, in March of 1942, at Fort Benning, Georgia. The Army was building airborne forces faster than it could figure out how to arm them. Instructors watched as paratroopers struggled with a problem that had no elegant answer. Each jump required nearly 40 kilograms of equipment, all of it essential, all of it strapped to a body already pushed to its physical limits. Somewhere in that mass of gear, each man also had to carry a weapon. The M1 Garand, General George S. Patton's greatest battle implement ever devised, was a superb rifle. Weighing 9.5 pounds and measuring over 43 inches long, chambered in .30-06 Springfield, firing a 150-grain bullet at nearly 2,800 feet per second, it could kill at 500 yards and dominate open battlefields. It was also completely unsuited for parachute operations. The Army's initial solution was the Griswold bag, a heavy canvas sack designed to protect the Garand during a jump. In theory, the system worked. The bag was clipped to the paratrooper's harness before boarding. The soldier exited the aircraft, endured the opening shock of the parachute, landed, opened the bag, assembled the rifle, and went to war. In practice, field exercises at Fort Benning exposed problems engineers had never anticipated. Slung rifles snagged on brush. The length of the Garand struck helmets and shoulders, making standard packs impossible to wear. Men landed hard, scrambled for cover, and fumbled with canvas straps and metal parts while instructors shouted and stopwatches ran. Under controlled conditions, 40 seconds was achievable. Under fire, it was lethal. While American paratroopers struggled, Germany demonstrated what airborne forces could achieve when properly equipped. Lightning operations in Belgium and the Netherlands, glider assaults, and the capture of seemingly impregnable fortresses like Eben-Emael proved that speed and surprise could overwhelm larger forces. Each German success underscored a simple truth. Airborne troops required weapons that could be carried safely during a jump and used instantly upon landing. The United States Army Ordnance Department issued an urgent request for a new type of weapon, one that offered greater range, accuracy, and firepower than a pistol but weighed far less than a rifle or submachine gun. It needed to be light, compact, and reliable. Paratroopers needed something they could actually fight with. That weapon already existed. The M1 Carbine, introduced in 1941, weighed just over 5 pounds and measured 35 inches long. Chambered in .30 carbine, it fired a 110-grain bullet at roughly 1,990 feet per second, delivering nearly 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. That was roughly twice the power of the Thompson's .45 ACP cartridge, with far greater range and accuracy. Its effective range of 300 yards suited the close-range fighting expected behind enemy lines. The 15-round detachable magazine offered sustained firepower, and production ramped up immediately. More than 6 million M1 carbines would eventually be manufactured, making it the most widely produced American small arm of the war. Yet even the M1 carbine was too long for parachute operations. 35 inches of steel and would still pose problems during violent aircraft exits and hard landings. Paratroopers needed a weapon that could be strapped tightly to the body, survive opening shock, and be ready to fire within seconds, not minutes. In early 1942, Army Ordnance issued another request: design a carbine with a folding or collapsible stock. The stakes were enormous. The 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions were already training for combat. Europe was burning, the Pacific was collapsing into chaos, and every week without a solution meant more men jumping into combat inadequately armed. 3 companies submitted designs. 2 were rejected without explanation. There was no time for debate. The third submission came from an unlikely source: Inland Manufacturing Division of General Motors in Dayton, Ohio. Inland had begun in the 1920s producing steering wheels for automobiles and operated out of a former aircraft factory. By 1942, it had become one of the largest producers of the M1 Carbine. Inland's engineers were not traditional gunsmiths. They were automotive designers who thought in terms of mass production, durability, and failure rates over tens of thousands of units. They designed for abuse, not perfection. In March 1942, Inland submitted its first drawings. The Army demanded revisions. Time was evaporating. Intelligence suggested airborne operations in North Africa and the Mediterranean were imminent. On April 29th, Inland's revised design was recommended for standardization as the M1A1. On May 12, 1942, it was officially approved. Inland had 6 months to prove it worked or watch paratroopers die carrying the wrong weapon. What set Inland apart was not revolutionary innovation but ruthless simplicity. The M1A1 was not a new weapon. It was the standard M1 carbine placed into a folding stock. A wooden pistol grip replaced the standard foregrip. A wire buttstock folded to the left side of the weapon, reducing overall length to 25 inches. When deployed, it matched the standard carbine length. Weight remained unchanged. The critical decision was what Inland chose not to include: a locking mechanism. The stock was held in place by a spring-loaded cam, not a latch. Ordnance engineers worried this was a weakness. Inland knew it was a strength. Locks meant moving parts. Moving parts meant failures. Failures meant dead paratroopers. A soldier could snap the stock open with one hand in total darkness. No buttons. No levers. No thought required. This was automotive engineering applied to combat. Inland subcontracted production using proven civilian manufacturing techniques. S.E. Overton supplied wooden components. Royal Typewriter produced wire stocks using industrial assembly methods. Rivets were automotive brake rivets. The leather cheek rest was built like car upholstery. Every part was chosen for durability, ease of repair, and mass production. By October 1942, deliveries began to the 82nd and 101st Airborne. Approximately 71,000 M1A1 carbines were produced in the first run. The weapons arrived with jump scabbards designed to secure them to a paratrooper's leg. The idea failed quickly. The physics were unforgiving. Men hit the ground with massive force, and weapons strapped to ankles caused broken bones. Paratroopers adapted, securing carbines behind reserve chutes or across their bodies. The Army unofficially allowed it. Combat decided what worked. The real test came in July 1943 during the invasion of Sicily. American paratroopers scattered in darkness, isolated behind enemy lines, exactly as planners had feared. This time, they landed with weapons ready. Stocks snapped open. Rounds chambered. Fire returned immediately. The M1A1 worked. That lesson carried into Normandy. On June 6, 1944, 13,000 paratroopers jumped into chaos. Drops scattered catastrophically. Equipment was lost. Men ran through fields hunted by German patrols. But those carrying M1A1 carbines were armed instantly. At Brecourt Manor, Lieutenant Richard Winters led an assault using carbines to suppress German gun crews. The lighter weight allowed speed through hedgerows. The 15-round magazine provided sustained fire. Casualties were horrific. Nearly 2,500 paratroopers became casualties. 15 of 16 battalion commanders in the 82nd were killed or wounded. But losses would have been far worse without a weapon that worked immediately. The M1A1 proved itself again in Market Garden, Varsity, and beyond. It was never perfect. It could not launch rifle grenades safely. But it did what mattered. By the end of the war, 140,591 M1A1 carbines had been produced, all by Inland. One design. One standard. No variation. The M1A1 did not replace the Garand. It solved a different problem. It gave paratroopers a fighting chance in the first 60 seconds after landing. The lesson was simple. Complexity kills. Simplicity survives.